Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm Sam Thompson. I'm proud to be your 66th president. We're coming to you live from the Edina Country Club and also on Zoom. We had 49 people pre-register live and 26 people pre-registered on Zoom. Rotary International has dedicated March as Water and Sanitation Month. The Rotary Foundation, otherwise known as TRF, is changing the world by providing grants for projects aimed at improving water, sanitation, and hygiene. Rotary has 7 areas of focus. Providing clean water is one of them. Since 2013, TRF has invested more than 1,000 water, sanitation, and hygiene projects to more than 100 countries. Our club, and specifically our International Grants Committee, led by Bonnie Rolfstead, has been very active in this area. Just this past month, Bonnie's committee approved 2 global water grants. The first one is a partnership with the Maple Grove Rotary Club. It's called Drinks Are on Us, and the goal is to provide a water distribution system to some of the isolated areas in Pelgar district in India. Currently, 2,500 residents have to walk several miles a day to get water for cooking and drinking. The second project Bonnie's committee has approved is a water project in Naka Valley, Uganda. It's a partnership with the Prior Lake Rotary Club. And the refugee program in Uganda from warring neighbors caused the water and sanitation systems to be overwhelmed in the Naka Valley. The 100-meter deep boreholes will provide 20,000 liters of bottled water per day for the refugees of Naka Valley. And last May, our club actually traveled to Guatemala with 27 Rotarians delivering life-saving purification units to the remote mountainous villages. And past President Josh Sprague is going to share with you shortly information on a second trip that we have planned this spring to allow us to be part of delivering water purifiers. I'd like to now share with you a short video about Rotary International's water and sanitation.
A single act of good can go a long way. It can cross oceans, cure disease, and create equality. As members of Rotary, we are people of action, and our actions have the power to speak loud and clear. We're changing lives and creating opportunities through our groundbreaking work in clean water, sanitation, and hygiene. Our global grants help communities create and maintain water resources close to home, because when clean water is within a child's grasp, so is a safe and promising future. We're committed to supporting sanitation projects that meet the needs of women and girls. Our programs provide modern facilities and hygiene training to cultivate long-term health and wellness. From safe access to water to private toilets and programs to teach healthy habits, we're working in homes, clinics, and schools to help families live healthy lives. Rotary Club members unite to create a world where water, sanitation, and hygiene are cornerstones of self-confidence and dignity, well within the reach of families who need it most. With more than a century of experience in service, Rotary is uniquely positioned to meet the challenges of today and fulfill the promise of a peaceful, healthy tomorrow. Your contribution to the Rotary Foundation keeps families connected to a world of good. Every gift is an action that speaks volumes, across classrooms, communities, and continents. Learn how you can support the cause that means the most to you.
Rotarians are people of action, and I heard from many of the people that went to the Guatemala trip how much they were moved by this. And not only was it life-changing for the people in the country, but it was life-changing for the people from our club that went on that trip. And now for our member update. Rotary lost a wonderful man this past week in our charter member, Don Erickson. He passed on March 3rd, and until recently he was attending many of our meetings on a regular basis. please keep Don's family in your thoughts and prayers. And our past president, Tim Murphy, had a massive heart attack on March 5th. And he's at the University of Minnesota, East Bank Hospital. He's at a great facility. He's progressed really well. It's very encouraging how he's progressing. And you can go to, if you want to continue to get information on Tim, you can go to getwelltim.com for updates. And continued prayers for Tim's quick recovery would be appreciated. Jim Ryman is busy tapping maple trees up at his lake place. The warm weather is showing that the sap is running. He's pictured here boiling down some sap to make maple syrup. Doug Johnson sent me this photo, and Doug said 21 gallons of sap boiled down will get you 1 gallon of syrup. So it's actually a labor of love for Jim. And Mike and Julian Kallas had their 5th grandchild, born on February 15th. June Louise McGuire is her name. Congratulations to Mike and Julian and their entire family. And Jennifer Bennerotte's son, Jack, was in a car accident with his 3 friends. They were T-boned. This was last week by a car that ran a red light in downtown Minneapolis. I guess they were racing down the streets of downtown Minneapolis. They were taken to HCMC, but luckily everybody was okay. They were shaken and bruised, but they're all okay. And Jen said the Lexus had a good and long life, had about 250,000 miles, and they thought that the car itself saved them. So they're very happy about that. And finally, congratulations to Eli and Hannah Groenendyk. They had a new baby on March 7th. Blakely K, congratulations. We have birthdays this next week, 5 birthdays that are listed there, so happy birthday to all of you. And many anniversaries. Seems like mid-March is a good anniversary month. And so what do we have, about 8 there. So congratulations to all of you. Assisting off the podium, our greeter is Paul Moody. Zoom greeter is Gene Morrison. Front desk is Dan Mott. Photographer Kaylin Eisnes. And superstar AV support Ryan Wilson. And please continue to wear your mask after dinner, after lunch, for your safety and the safety of other members. And now I'd like to call up Nick Van Beek for the Invocation Pledge in the 4-way test.
Please join me in prayer. God, as the sun shines and the snow melts, we thank you for life. We recall 1 year ago when life seemed so uncertain, things seemed so out of control, when community was stripped away from us. God, we thank you for life, that we survived this past year, for progress with vaccinations, for slowly declining case numbers, for increased hope. But God, we know there's still a long ways to go. Give us life, Lord. We thank you for life for our friend Tim Murphy. We thank you that he has survived a heart attack, that his breathing tube has been removed. But we know there's a long way to go, Lord. Give Tim life. We pray your blessing on our friend, and we ask that you would bring him back here very soon. Lord, we thank you now for this food, for the gift of community and friendship, for the values that we all share together, for our speaker here today. And we pray that you would bless our time together. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have a guest. We have one guest with us today. David Kleins, do you want to introduce your guest?
Yes. Can you hear me? Paul, can you hear me over there? Am I loud enough? Okay. This is my good friend Rick Oliva, and he lives in Bloomington, and he's running for school board? No, you're not running for school board. He's been on the school board. He's running for city council at large in Bloomington, and I wanted to introduce him to y'all. He's a lifelong resident of Bloomington with 3 wonderful kids, and he's also an avid guitarist and music teacher, and I wanted to I'm so happy that he could join us today. So this is Rick Oliva.
Welcome. Also joining us on Zoom today, we have visiting Rotarian Ryan Murphy. We have Eric Allenberg, guest of Catherine Gump. We have John Mathill, also guest of David Kleins, and Tom Nelville, guest of Joe Hayes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As the Rotary Club of Edina continues its leadership development series, I want you to be sure to mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 16th at 6 o'clock for an experience you will not want to miss. It's one that you'll long remember and greatly benefit from. Nationally recognized for her human resource management consulting skills, Edina Rotarian Jean Morrison will speak on resolving conflict during trying times. And the title of this important workshop is Let's Work It Out. In this workshop, Jean will point out how these difficult and uncertain times put us all at a higher risk of relationship tension that can and does result in conflicts. In this session, she will teach us techniques to increase self-awareness through helping us understand our response to stress, to improve self-management by learning new techniques that will work for us, and techniques in resolving conflict by learning how to better understand and collaborate with others with whom we may have conflict. We have been blessed as a club by Jean's insightful and compassionate leadership in our Rotary Club now into her 4th decade of service. Join her for this valuable presentation next Tuesday at 6. It's open to the public, so this is an opportunity to invite your friends and colleagues to attend so they might benefit as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Susan Stiles, and I am the Rotary Foundation Director. This is a 2-year commitment. My commitment ends on June 30th, and Catherine Gump is going to take over effective July 1st. So she's going to help me out today, and we have the honor of recognizing some of our fellow members' contributions to the Rotary Foundation. Now, Sam earlier shared some information about that, and the Rotary International can do all that great work around the world from contributions from every one of our members. And it really is an entire world village that makes this happen. So our goal this year, our club, is to raise a minimum of $75,000 for the annual share. That money goes to the Rotary Foundation. In about 3 years from now, that money almost triples and comes back to our district, and that's what helps fund all of our international grants. So it's not so much that we're looking for how much each of you can give, but it's more about participation, and we're really looking for all of our members to participate in that goal. Right now, we're close to $33,000 year to date. Most of our giving happens in this club around May and June and April. So we anticipate that we'll make that $75,000 number and perhaps beyond. Last year, we were just over $90,000. Previous years, it's been close to $100,000. The giving that our members give to the foundation is recognized as well. And it's a long-standing tradition that we recognize givers with Paul Harris Fellows. And Paul Harris Fellow Awards is based on a $1,000 cumulative gift, okay? I'm proud to say that as of June 30th of 2020, every member in good standing in our club is a Paul Harris Fellow. And that's a really big deal, okay? So thank you, everybody. New members can participate in the program, and we actually really encourage you to, because if you give $333 gift, we will then match you with 664 points, and that gets you to your first PHF, all right? Now, Rotary International sends lots of stuff. So recently I got this in the mail, I got this in the mail, and all of you get these things in the mail. So there's a couple ways that you can give. You can fill out one of these cards. You can go on myrotary.org website, and I really would encourage you to establish your account there. That website just has lots of wonderful information. You can send a check directly to Evanston. You can donate online. You can call my office. So if you have any questions, that's really what we are here for, to help guide you through your giving process. If you are over 70 and a half and you have an IRA, you can give directly through your IRA, and it's a non-taxable distribution from your IRA. If you need more information on that, I can help you with that as well. Now, to become a Paul Harris Society member, that's really easy. It's simply stating your commitment to give a minimum of $1,000 a year. Major donor status is a cumulative gift of $10,000. And in a few weeks, we've got several major donors that have reached that level, and we will be recognizing them separately here at the podium and thank them for their long-term commitment to the foundation. And you can see the other major donor too, and then of course there's the Bequest Society. So on the next, here's the different ways you can give. So on the next slide, I'd like to invite those of you on that slide to come on up, and we've got some pins and certificates for you. So if you guys don't mind coming up, Luther, if you're here, Peyton, Teresa, Renee, Don, Raj, and Mike. And I want to thank you all for your contributions, and let's see, here's Renee.
Here's Renee's.
Yeah. And here's Peyton, and I also have a certificate. So when the first time you reach your PHF, you actually get a really nice certificate like this. And then when you get additional cumulative $1,000, you get a pin that has little jewels on them representing PHF 1, 2, 3, and onward. Here's Mike Tingham. And then, who else do we have up here? Raj. Here's Raj's. Yep, I've got Teresa's. Here's Raj as well. And Teresa's right here. Yeah, yep, I got a pin for her. You guys get pins with rubber bands and boxes and all sorts of good stuff. Who else do we have here? Don?
Don, oh yes, sir.
Don here. Did Mike Tingham make it right there?
Yeah, I guess.
Yep. All right. And I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Everybody smile with your eyes. I'll like that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will be leading a trip back to Guatemala in May 15th to the 22nd, following up on our trip from 2 years ago, where we delivered 659 life-saving water purifying units. These are individual household units that serve between 5 and 10 people, so we're talking about thousands of people in the remote parts of Guatemala being served by our club. Last time we had a district grant and a partnership. This time we are the lead grant at $8,000 with 5 other clubs, including Morningside, City of Lakes, Number 9, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, with a district match. And this trip is a life-changing trip, as Sam mentioned. If you've never been on an international experience, it's extremely manageable. It's a 7-day trip. This time we'll be traveling with a group of 10. Last time it was 30, but under the circumstances, of course, a smaller group will be easier to manage. The cost is about $1,200. Some early people that I know are going would be our international chair, Susan Stiles, TRF chair, Shelley Loberg, incoming president, Michael Stanzak, incoming president, and a couple other maybes. So we'll have about 5 spots left. Cost of the trip, $1,200. Most people by now are getting their COVID vaccines, so you probably will get a chance to get vaccinated before the trip. And actually, I just got my notice about being vaccinated. I'm not sure why I'm getting in so early, but I did tell them that I was stuck in a club with Jeff O, and they moved me to the top of the priority list. So, talk to me in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. If you're interested in going on this trip, again, May 15th to the 22nd, all in, including airfare, about $1,200. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Smaka, for those of you who don't know me. I'm happy to welcome Marcus Edorh today into our club. We met this past July at a book club, and he immediately expressed interest in becoming a Rotarian. He has a huge heart and wishes to give back to his community. He will make a great Rotarian. He brings both local and valuable international perspectives to our club. As a member of the Rotary Club of Edina, and on behalf of our entire membership, we welcome you as a new member to our club. Please join in the friendship that we share and in the passion that we hold for projects that make our community and the world a better place to live. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people who desire to uphold high professional standards in their vocation. As an employee of Citigroup, your classification will be banking, asset, and risk management. Please get involved by joining one of our many committees. By doing this, you will get to know more of our membership, and you will find the true value of Rotary's motto, service above self. At this time, I present to you the PIN and membership packet.
Good afternoon. Before anything, I would like to say thank you to my sponsor, Lindsay, for inviting me to this club. Not only she gave me the opportunity to meet all of you guys, but I've been very impressed for the warm welcoming you guys gave me. I'm very, very grateful for that. Well, my goal today is very simple. I'm going to tell you more about me so you can fall in love with me. I'm just kidding. My goal is to tell you more about me so that we can get to know each other and have a very strong relationship, a good friendship. So again, my name is Marcus Edorh. I go by Marcus. And I was born in Togo. It's a French-speaking country in West Africa. And from day one I was born, my parents were there for me. My family was very, not rich at all, but my parents supported me, they loved me, and they really cared for me. And looking back, I realized that the most important things in life are extremely inexpensive. Things like love, caring. So they taught me that I can do anything in life. They gave me that confidence, and they gave me the value of humility, education, and do the right thing. So I grew up in a very happy family. I'm the third son of a family. There are three boys, and I'm the last boy, actually. So in 2003, I moved to the U.S. And coming to the U.S., you know, I went to New York first time, and then I went to New York. I realized that it wasn't for me. It was too busy, too noisy, because I was living in Bronx. So I moved to Minneapolis. It was June 2003. It was very nice. The rest is story, so I won't go too much into details. But I love Minneapolis. I went to school here. I went to University of Minnesota. Yeah. I graduated with a bachelor in economics and statistics, and I went back. I received my master's degree in financial mathematics. Currently, I work for Citi. It used to be Citibank. It became Citigroup. Now Citi. And I'm in charge of the financial risk management, specifically the enterprise-wise financial risk for Citigroup. I love my job, so I'm grateful to say that I love my job. Prior to that, I worked for U.S. Bank, and I was still I was also in charge of the risk analytics, but for mortgage, specifically for mortgage. Before U.S. Bank, I worked for General Mills. I was a scientist there for almost 5 years. I love volunteering, and I'm heavily involved with Women Venture. I teach business risk there. I've been involved also with Prepare and Prosper. We prepare tax for low-income people, and I also work with Habitat for Humanity, and I'm a part of the Trinity City Black Affinity Group as well. To close it out, my passions include tennis. I love tennis. I play tennis. I watch tennis. I can play day long. I love basketball. I love football as well. One thing that I really love is food. I love food. So thanks again, and I'm looking forward to build a friendship with all of you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus, and welcome. Okay, just a reminder, our fireside chats have been going mid-March until April 26th. You can sign up on our website. And now at this time, I would like to invite up Deirdre Kvale, who will be introducing our speaker today.
I have to take this off. Thanks, Sam. I'd like to introduce Kelly Smith. Kelly is a native of Minnesota and grew up in Lakeville. She went to St. Ben's, graduated with a BA in communication and psychiatry. After graduating, she's had various reporting jobs and joined the Star Tribune in 2010 and has had various assignments at the Tribune covering the West Metro City government, Hennepin County government, schools, politics, nonprofits, and philanthropies. She continues to give back to St. Ben's as an advisor to the student newspaper. She loves the outdoors, water sports, paddling, and kayaking. One of Kelly's fascinations that she shared with me was she's fascinated with the Northern Lights and hopes to experience the Northern Lights someday. Kelly, welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? A little bit?
You got it? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah. This is my first in-person event since March 2020, so this is very unusual to not speak to people behind a screen. So yes, I'm a reporter with the Star Tribune today, and I know there's some attorneys in the room, so just full disclosure, I'm speaking as an individual reporter of the newsroom. This isn't a company initiative, so a group of us in our newsroom got together and decided we needed to do better community outreach. So historically, journalists have been pretty bad about explaining how we work. So this is a little window into the newsroom and some other issues. So this is usually an hour-long presentation that we've condensed into 15 minutes. So if you want the extended version, sometime let me know. So this is our newsroom. We shut down last March due to COVID, like a lot of businesses, and so we've been basically all working remotely since then, which is the first time in 150 years. If you don't know anything about the newsroom, well, first of all, since this is in person, I can have a show of hands. How many of you actually read either the Star Tribune or other newspapers regularly? Okay, great, that's fantastic. How about public radio? And how about TV news? Local TV news stations? Okay, great. So some of the stuff you guys may already know, so apologies if you do, and others you may not know some of this, but our newsroom is open almost 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, so we work on every holiday. News never stops. And throughout our newsroom, we have reporters like me who are assigned different beats. So my beat right now is nonprofits and philanthropies. So that's why I can be here today, as I'm not covering the trial that's going on. We have a pretty extended team covering that. So we have about 230 journalists total, which makes us the largest newsroom in Minnesota. And what else can I tell you? We have 2 reporters in Washington, D.C. that cover the Minnesota congressional delegation. We have a couple reporters up in Duluth, covering Duluth. We reopened our Duluth bureau there. And we just started a St. Cloud bureau, so we have 1 reporter there as well. So I just like to bring this up. You know, a lot of people use this phrase, the media, and it's a very vague, monolithic term that doesn't mean a whole lot. So when people are talking about the media to me, I always try to figure out exactly what they're talking about. Are you talking about local newspapers? Are you talking about TMZ and tabloids? Are you talking about the stuff that you watch late at night, analysis on CNN or one of those cable shows? So each of these different things have different ethical policies. So newspapers, here I am representing newspapers today. We have very strict standards. So for instance, I can't accept anything in exchange for coverage. So I didn't take your lunch today, which is probably a little gray zone. It says I'm not covering you. I probably could have taken it, but I'm just so rooted in that I can't take it, so I didn't. But yeah, I used to cover city council meetings, not Edina, but other West Metro city councils. And often you'd show up there and maybe there's some bottled water or donuts or cookies if it's an early morning meeting, and I would never take one because you didn't want the perception of taking a donut to then impact people's perception of your objectivity. So this is different than other organizations. If you guys follow, Instagram influencers, they can post their burger that they had today, and they can get money for that. So, a lot of times people tell me how overwhelmed they are by all the information in our world today. I was in a Lyft before COVID, and the woman said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a reporter. She said, oh, I just can't trust anything anymore. I'm just so overwhelmed by all the information. And I said, well, what information are you overwhelmed by? Are you just scrolling through Facebook? And it's just a lot of information on Facebook, right? You can keep scrolling all day. Or are you overwhelmed by what you're hearing on NPR, right? There's a distinction there. And so just wanted to point out that we have different ethical standards. A good example of this is a couple years ago when Prince died, who was the first news outlet to report it? Does anyone know? TMZ. So not any of us who are here in Minnesota, we could actually be on the scene, but TMZ was the first one because they notoriously can pay sources for information, ambulance drivers, people in jails, that kind of thing. So as a reporter, I can't do that. We need to call up law enforcement. I need to get confirmation before I can report that. So TMZ scooped all of us because of that. These are just some of our notable front pages over the years. We started in 1867, the year that Minneapolis was incorporated as a city, so we have a long history. That makes us actually older than the LA Times and the Boston Globe, so a little point of pride here in Minnesota. A lot of people ask how the front page is decided each day. I'm a reporter, so I'm a little lower on the food chain, so I don't get to decide that, but we have a group of editors who meet twice a day and they are talking, right now probably about what will be on tomorrow's front page. And normally they're looking for, these are some, really big news story days, so these are kind of the exception from the rule, but usually it's about 5 stories and 4 of them are local, and then the 5th one is from the Washington Post, New York Times, AP, which we pay to cover. And feel free to shout out questions if you guys have any throughout the presentation. A lot of people ask, how does the paper come together each day? So as I mentioned, we have beat reporters that were each assigned a specific beat. We usually find story ideas as a beat reporter through meeting with different sources. So when I started the nonprofit beat, I went out and I met with 50 people throughout the nonprofit sector, not for a story. It took a lot of effort just to meet with them, to talk to them, learn about the sector, what are the trends, what are the challenges that they're facing. And so you establish those kind of sourcing. We get a lot of press releases. I don't know if there's anyone here from PR, but there's been a huge influx in the PR industry versus journalism. So we get a lot of, especially covering nonprofits, I get a lot of press releases. And yeah, we're doing a lot of localizing news to Minnesota. And we pitch our stories to our editor, and their editor will say, no, you need to go do more reporting, or yes, that's a story. Then we go out and we do the reporting. After the story is done, it goes to our editor who line edits it. Then it goes to our copy desk, where a copy editor also goes through and line edits it as well. So we're fact checking for names, making sure that our names are all spelled right. That's the worst correction that you can have, is misspelling someone's name. So we always are trying to make sure that those key facts are correct. The page designer puts it on the page. The copy editor is the one who writes the headlines, the cut lines in the paper. And then it goes off to our printing press, which before COVID and hopefully after COVID, we do free tours of our printing presses in the North Loop. So if anyone is interested in that, it's like Disneyland for journalists, but maybe not everybody shares my enthusiasm there. A little fun fact, we have 2 different editions. So we have a Greater Minnesota edition and a Twin Cities edition. So obviously, that's basically just determined by the deadlines that it takes a truck to get to Greater Minnesota. So on election night, this plays out. Polls close in Minnesota at 8 p.m. My first deadline is usually 8:30, turn in a story. We often don't know the results of the elections, even here locally. So I'll write a story. There were 2 people in a city council race. We don't know the results. That's the Greater Minnesota version. And then in the Twin Cities, we have another hour to update the story. So if you haven't been following along with the state of the newspaper industry, it's a bit bleak. Just in the last 15 years, 2,000 or more than 2,000 newspapers have closed across the US. And that's created these growing news deserts. And about 30% of those are in rural areas. So these are places that no longer have anyone covering their city council, their school board, their local sports. It's a huge, huge problem. Researchers have shown that as local papers close, fewer people end up voting, fewer people run for local elections, and bond ratings go up. Cities end up spending more money locally because maybe they don't have that extra transparency. So there's a huge financial component to having newspapers in your community. In Minnesota, just in 2020, 7 papers closed across the state, including Eden Prairie News here in the West Metro. So very sad to see the trend continuing. COVID really accelerated the financial decline for newspapers because newspapers rely on 2 sources for information, or for revenue, ads and subscribers. And so when COVID hit, ads basically just evaporated. And there were, if you read the paper, the Star Tribune, that week there was maybe 1 or 2 ads. So it was pretty bleak. That's why you'll see that more and more papers are relying on subscribers instead of ads, because we want to rely more heavily on people supporting us than that volatility of ads. So right now the Star Tribune is about 50-50, and years ago it was about 80-20. So we're trying to, if you get that annoying pop-up, that is why. And yeah, on the side there, I just pointed out that about 71% of people think that local news is doing just fine financially, and yet 14% support it. So there's a disconnect there where people think everything's fine, but they don't actually support it. So you've seen a huge surge of subscriptions at the New York Times, the Washington Post, which is fantastic for them. The New York Times, I think, is about 7.5 million digital subscriptions. To put that in comparison to us, we're about 100,000. So they have more than 1,500 reporters or journalists. We have 230. So just to point out that local news matters too. I know I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to go really quickly, but I mentioned that we followed specific journalism ethics. So you can look this up if you want on spj.org. This is the code of ethics that we follow. This is the same code that NPR, WCCO, other local news will follow. And same with our photographers, our National Press Photographers Association. So, when I cover nonprofits, a lot of times we're taking a photo of a program, and if you have like an internal PR brochure, maybe you can stage that photo. But in journalism, we can never do that. It has to be a photo that's happening organically in the community. We can't stage anything like that, if that makes sense. So as I mentioned, we can't accept gifts or exchange for our coverage. We have a restaurant critic who reviews usually more than 200 restaurants a year. We pay for every one of those meals. I can't participate in a political event or a rally or anything of that nature. We have to disclose conflicts of interest, and we really rarely use anonymous sources, which is very different than the New York Times. We have to have a pretty high bar, and I have to get approval from all editors above me to use an anonymous source. And as I mentioned, we run corrections every day whenever we make a mistake that needs to be corrected in the next day's paper. So just a point of clarification, because a lot of people blur news and opinion. So we do have a separate op-ed section, and they're pictured there on the side there. I have no idea what's in tomorrow's op-ed section until you do when we open up the paper. So, they're completely separately, independently run. We also have opinion columnists throughout the paper in news and sports, business and variety, and they can give analysis. They can give their first-person opinion, and I can't as a reporter. I'm sure most of you guys know this, but especially for students, they think sponsored content is news content. So if you ever see that, that's a euphemism for advertising. So I just want to point that out. And then I know I just have 2 more minutes left, so I'm going to go through these really quickly. But if you don't care about news at all, you probably have a social media account or you have access to the internet. So how can you be a good news consumer of that information? One of your principles is truth, right? So how can you verify if something is true? Considering the source, especially if you come across a link and you've never seen this organization before or this website before, clicking the About section, who is behind it, checking the author, you can verify that Tim Harlow is a real human in Minnesota. Checking the date, a lot of times stories can go viral later, years later from some political reason. So knowing when that story was published is important. And obviously reading beyond the headline is also key. So the Star Tribune, we list our policies and standards online. If I came across a news site and I couldn't see who was behind it, they had no bylines, that would be a huge red flag to me. And there's actually a growing number of partisan websites here in Minnesota that are popping up. And that would be one red flag to me, is who is actually writing this story. So obviously these are fake. Disinformation is information intentionally designed to mislead. Misinformation the person believes is true. So this was from 2020, the Australian fires. Really dramatic photos. If you came across these on social media, the fact that people are calling out them being photoshopped would be a red flag to me. The fact that someone is in Texas tweeting about Australia, that would be a red flag to me, because in journalism we want primary sources. So if I'm covering an Edina fire, I want someone who saw the fire, not someone saw a Facebook Live of the fire, right? So same with on social media, if you see posts, you want to get to that primary sources. So that one of those pictures is from 2013. So it was a fire in Australia, it just was in the wrong year. So if you had reverse Google imaged that photo, you would have seen that come up. And then during COVID, there's been a lot of viral posts about animals and how they've come back when humans are in lockdown. And again, these are distorted. So the Venice canals, the dolphins that came out, those were photographed hundreds of miles away. There was a picture of a swan in the canals that got tons and tons of retweets. And when National Geographic confronted the woman, who was in India, she wasn't even in Venice, she was in India, and they confronted her and said, why do you have this post up? It's misleading. She said, well, it's the most likes and retweets I've ever gotten, so I can't delete it. So that's, if misinformation can spread that quickly over cute animal pictures, think about how fast it can spread over, really serious issues. And then the last slide is just great information. You could go to the News Literacy Project. They have great tips. You can take a quiz to see how news literate you really are, and lots of good tips there too. So, any questions?
So, back many years ago, it was a 24-hour news cycle. Now it's like 24 minutes. How do you triage what stories go to digital versus the daily print?
Yeah, so he asked, how do you decide what goes digitally versus in print? Actually, most of our stories do go in print that are online. So our Duluth Bureau, I don't know if my editors want me saying this or not, but our Duluth Bureau was started as a digital platform. So there's a newsletter. It's all online, obviously, but all those stories go in print as well. So we need most of those stories for both platforms. And you don't want to punish your print readers for giving your digital readers information that they can't then get access to. Yeah.
I have a question from one of our people watching on Zoom, Katie Campbell. She asks, which journalist inspired you to enter the field?
Oh, I've never gotten that question before. So I'm going to have to reveal, I'm going to have to disclose something. My parents are both journalists. So actually, they inspired me not to go into journalism, to be quite honest, because I was the last one picked up from daycare as a little kid because of deadline. They missed my band concerts and my soccer games. They're going to hate that I'm saying this right now, but I saw like the bad side of journalism, the deadlines and how demanding it can be, but here I am, still. Yeah.
Our Rotary Club does a lot of fun and exciting, or our whole Rotary community does a lot of fun and exciting, wonderful programs in the community. What's the best way for us to share that with you so the world knows about this wonderful Rotary organization and that other people can become involved in what a terrific program it is? How do we get
So how do you share information with us to share to our readers? Yeah, well, you can send us a press release and we'll definitely keep it in mind. Like I said, we get pretty inundated with press releases. I probably get 30, 40 a day, and most of those are junk, like write about our author in New York, which, we're a Minnesota paper, so we cover Minnesota stuff. So a lot of it is just national press releases that wouldn't ever be covered by us. But yeah, you can definitely keep us posted. Part of these discussions is also to hear about stories that we're missing. And as journalists, we have to be out in the community actually, hearing what stories are we missing. So if you have story ideas, my contact info is right here. So you can share anything that you have, and I can pass it on to the right reporter.
Kelly, we have public radio existing alongside commercial radio. Public TV exists alongside commercial TV. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're moving toward a model where we'll have commercial newspapers and public nonprofit newspapers?
So when you say commercial, you mean like privately owned, like the Star Tribune?
Yeah.
And whether we'll have more nonprofit newspapers? That's a good question. You have seen an increase in nonprofit news, not just here in Minnesota, but across the country. Which I think is great. There have been questions that have come up if you're a nonprofit news organization and you receive a grant from Target. Now, does that, do you disclose that? Does that affect your news coverage of Target? If you want to see if Target advertises, you can open up the paper and see, we're not getting money from any organization beyond what is in advertising, right? So there's that question, but I think it's great to have more and more news organizations, and we could use more and more journalists because we thrive from that competition as well. Yeah.
I have another Zoom question for you. Woosh notes that AI will replace most jobs in the future. Can it replace journalists too?
Can AI replace journalists? I hope not. No, I mean, I think there's a human element to what we do, and if you had a reporter sitting, or a robot or AI sitting in a city council meeting, could they decipher what is newsworthy or not? I don't know. No, that would be really sad. Oh, stay up here? Okay.
Kelly, thank you for that really interesting talk about the Star Tribune and all you add to our community. It's really sad to hear about all these local newspapers that are no longer with us, and we're really happy that you're such a part of the framework of Minnesota. So thanks for coming today and taking your time to be with us. Rotary, as you heard, is 1.2 million people all around the world that are united in the common values of service above self. In honor of your speech today, we're going to make a donation to Every Meal, which provides weekend food and other food gap programs to those kids in our community that are hurting. So thanks for coming today.
Thanks. I've actually written a story about them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Okay, next week's speaker is David Marion, and he'll be talking about overcoming addiction and fighting recovery. And looking ahead, we have the fireside chats that are going on right now. We have on March 16th our leadership series, which we talked about with Gene Morrison, and our vocational happy hour is on April 7th. I want to thank all of you for attending live and on Zoom. Thank you, Kelly, for being here today. Paul Harris Fellows, thanks so much. And welcome, Marcus. I'd like to leave you with a quote. The problem with quotes found on the internet is that they are often not true. Abraham Lincoln. With that, meeting adjourned.